Let's make a garter stitch border to keep your knits from curling. Welcome back to Goodknitkisses. I'm your host Kristen, and today we are working on a garter stitch border with the Stockinette field for our knitting needles. This is a number 15 needle or 10 millimeter, and we're working with a super bulky number 6 yarn. Let's get started. Okay, so we can do a couple of cast-ons here. I'm going to show the longtail or slingshot method, and I'll also show the knit cast-on. If you're familiar with the knit cast-on, I actually did that in this sample here, and I do have a slow motion video available. So we're going to start with the slip knot and just leave a tail, and then you're going to start by making a knit stitch for this cast-on. This is good if you have a hard time remembering how to cast on because it just reinforces the knit stitch. So we're going to knit this stitch but not let it fall off. Then we're going to twist it and put our needle in the other side from this needle on our dominant hand and then slip it off. And now we have 2 stitches. We're going to stick our needle back in the new stitch that we just created, make another one, twist, and insert that into the loop. And as I said, I've got videos on how to do this in a beginner series. It's also in a slow motion, and I will put the links below. So you're going to continue making this all the way across until you have 16 stitches. So make 16 and pause your video, and I'm going to go ahead and start the slingshot or longtail cast-on method. Okay, I know that my sample is about 7 inches, 7.5 inches, and that's what I particularly want. If you know the width of the item that you're going to make, you want to measure about 3 times that amount for the longtail method. So I'm just measuring it out this way, but you can measure off a lot more if you're not sure. So now I'm going to make a slip knot right in the middle of that, and I'm going to put the yarn down here, put my loop here. Okay, so put it on my needle. I'm going to take my non-dominant hand and then put the tail in the front side and the working yarn in the back, grab it, and then I'm going to split it with my fingers, my thumb and my index finger. So we're splitting it this way. And now I'm going to pull this back like I'm pulling back a slingshot. Okay, so I'm pull back the needle and I'm going to put it under the loop that's on the thumb side here. So put it here, and now I'm going to twist to the inside of where my index finger is, and I'm going to put the needle through here. Okay, now I'm going to go through this loop here where my thumb is, right in the middle of it, and go down. Okay, when I do that, I'm going to take my thumb off. All right, so you got this big loop here, and now I can pull on this strand, this tail strand that's towards me, and make that more taut. And now that's not going to be tight. I don't want it too tight. You want to make sure it's loose enough to work with. So otherwise you're going to be kind of messing yourself up later. So want to make sure and slip my fingers through again. Okay, your fingers really will stay there, but it may not look like it on the video here because I'm trying to be loose with it with you. So go ahead, and now we've got 2 stitches on there. We're going to pull this back again, go down and under this loop here that's on the outside of your thumb. Okay, twist and go to the inside of your finger, down through that area there. Effectively, this is like having a loop here. So we're going to go down here, and then now we're going to go down through this loop here between our thumb, let go, and when I let go, I simultaneously pull on this strand here. Okay. Then you can kind of readjust if you need to. And notice on my dominant hand, I'm going to put my finger on this first stitch and kind of slide it back and hold them on there. So go back, go down and up through that hole, go around. You're going to twist and go down through that hole, and now go down through this loop here. Drop it and pull. Down to the inside, you're going to go down and up through the loop, go around from the top down, and then top down for this loop. Drop and pull. Okay, so we're going to go up, down, down, drop and pull, up, down, down, drop and pull, up, oops, do that again, up, down, down, drop and pull. And I do have another slow motion video on this one as well. So now that we've got these stitches on here, you're going to go until you get 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I need 8 more stitches. Your tail will be on the opposite side when we get started, but you will end up moving this over to your dominant hand, whichever one that is. Okay? And you'll have 2 little tails sticking out, as opposed to when you see me start again in a minute, which I will have the knit cast on here. All right, pause your video and I'll meet you back in a moment. I'm going to stop for a moment and talk to you about stitch markers. I did not list them in your supplies. You don't have to have them. However, what we're going to be doing later is marking between a few pegs. And if you have some stitch markers that will slip over your needle easily, then you need 2 of them. And also you can use a closable one that opens as stitch marker to mark the beginning of your first stitch. And so I'll show you how to do that. One that closes, this is one that closes here. It opens like this. And so you can use a stitch marker like that to mark your first stitch if you want to remember which side was your first row starting because of the tail. So let's get started here. Okay, we want to start our first stitch or the first row, knit that. And after you have completed it, go ahead, grab your stitch marker and mark that stitch that you just completed and close it off. And that's going to be indicating stitch 1 on row 1. Row 1 is going to be on the front side here. This is your right side. Knit the next stitch and move along until you have completed the first row. And I'll meet you at the end of that. Again, a slow motion video is available in the description below. Okay, straighten our stitches out, turn that over, and we're going to work the back. Now, when you work the back in the knit stitch, you automatically start creating a garter stitch. After we work the beginning of our side borders, we'll switch over and start making a purl stitch. So we'll do that in a few rows here. And then that will create your stockinette. And that's this field over here. Okay, create 6 rows of the knit stitch. Pause your video and I'll meet you back up after you've completed 6 rows. I've completed the 6 rows and now turn it back to the right side. You can see the last purl bump row that I did. So I have got my first knit row here, then I've got the purl bump, which is on row 2, row 3 is knit, row 4 is purl, row 5 is knit, row 6 is purl, and now I'm on the right side again, and I'm going to start my border. Now I just want to show you that, see how this is now the same width as this one over here. We're going to work on this right side border and the left side of our panel. We're going to pick up a stitch marker here in just a moment and slip it onto our needles. I want you to work the first 4 stitches in knit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, slip a stitch marker on and continue knitting across 8 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Slip on your second stitch marker and continue knitting across. If you need to, for your needle size and your yarn, if you use something different, you'll want to make the border as long as you want, and you may have to adjust how many stitches are on the left and right, but just make sure that they're the same amount. And turn this over. Okay, so now that we've got an indicator, we are going to always knit the first 4 stitches. Oops. We're going to always knit the first 4 stitches and the last 4 stitches, and the ones in between on the wrong side we will purl. So knit 4 stitches, and then you're going to slip your stitch marker to the right, and then move your working yarn to the front. Okay, and this is where we're going to purl, and you're only purling on the wrong side. And for a slow motion video on the purl, please see the link below, but we'll try that, showing it a little slower here. I'm going to put your dominant hand needle into the loop here from the front side, okay, right to left from the right-handed one, and wrap around, yarn over, push that through the loop, and then let it slide off. Remember, if you don't let that slide off, you will create an extra stitch. So yarn over, push that through, let it fall off. If the yarn is not in the front when you start, you may create an extra stitch. Okay, so now that we're done, move it to the back, or you will create another stitch. Slip your stitch marker over to the right and knit. Now, because it's only 4 stitches, you may not need a stitch marker. You can remember that that the first 4 or the first 5 or however many you need is what you're going to be working with. But if you need that visual reminder, especially if you're going to set your project down and come back to it, I would recommend that you go ahead and stick them on, especially if you have to walk away for a day or two, just to remind yourself. So now we're on the right side again, and we know that because we know where we had put our original beginning marker. And if you had the slingshot method, you will have your beginning at one side and the knit stitch on another. So knit the first 4 stitches every row, and on the right side rows, which are all the odds, you're going to knit across the whole thing. Okay, so when you have completed about 4 inches, at least for this sample, then we will meet back up. Or when you reach the spot that you need on your scarf or blanket or sweater or whatever you're working on, then we'll meet back up and we'll continue and finish the garter stitch. And I will flip this on the other side just to show you again how you do row 2. So it's a 2-row repeat. The first row is going to be knit on the front side. The second row, you will knit the first set of stitches and purl what's between the markers, and then knit to the end. Again, the working yarn goes in the front. Move over your stitch marker. We're going to purl and continue purling. When you've completed the 4 rows, the 4 inches, or to the length that you need, come back. See you in a moment. Okay, so let's say you've got to your desired length. Here I'm just making a square, and I'm going to continue on and repeat the border that I started with. So we don't have to worry about counting stitches or anything. We just go on across. And if you'll notice, if you want to know what I achieved, this is actually 4 inches wide here. And so I'm knitting to about 4 inches, and then I will start my border to complete that. So let's go. We're going to knit across. Remember, you're on the right side. If you find that you get to the right length and it's on the wrong side, just knit across and start your garter from there. Okay, that's our last stitch. And now when we flip it on the back side, on the wrong side, we will knit across as well and continue. So the garter is going to get, again, on there just from knitting every row. I'll meet you back when you've gotten the same amount of rows that you did in the first place. Pause your video, meet you in a minute. All right, so you've counted up to the point where you need to bind off and you're not sure. Maybe you're not sure if you have enough rows or too many rows to make it exactly match once you put your bind off. Okay, so let's go back here and count. I have a cast on of a knit cast on. If I did a slingshot or longtail cast on, then my edge would look a little bit different. Now, I've got 1, 2, 3 purl bump rows showing in my garter stitch. So what I've done here is when I knit across the right side, then I knit across the wrong side on the back. What happens is on the front, it pushes the purl bump out. So now I have 1, 2, 3, because I just finished on the wrong side knitting across, which makes a purl bump appear. Okay, so I still have this extra looking knit stitch down here. That's because I used the knit cast on instead of a slingshot or longtail cast on. So in my case, I'm going to knit across one more time and then bind off. If you use the longtail cast on or slingshot, then you'll want to go ahead and start your bind off here. So I'm going to pause the video again and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we've come to the time for bind off. We're going to knit the first 2 stitches. Go ahead and take your working yarn, go around, let that drop off, knit the next stitch, let that drop off. Now we're going to take the first loop up and over the second loop, go over that tip of the needle, and now you've bound off 1 stitch. We're going to do that again, taking the back loop over the front and over. And so what it does is it creates this chain here. We'll do a few more together. If you need a slower video, I do have that on my channel, and I can put the link below for the slow motion video and also the full length video for binding off. Okay, so we've got this chain that's being created on the top here. See that chain? And when we turn it over, you can see how this edge is now the same as this edge. Okay, so I'm going to continue binding this off and we'll fasten it off at the end together. and bind off the last stitch. And when you're done with that, you're going to pull and make a loop. I've already actually cut it, and then we're going to go through and then pull and create a loop. And that will complete the end of your work here. And then you'll take it and weave in the ends with a tapestry needle, a large-eyed tapestry needle. This one's extra big. And weave these ends in, going through the back, and work your way through the stitches. You can work your way down the row and then back up on itself, or also diagonally, but you want to make sure and hide it in the back of the stitches and not coming up through the front. So once you've woven in all your stitches, you are done. You can also steam block it to make all of your stitches come out nicely and evenly. This will break up any tension if you had stopped during your work. I had stopped some during some of this, so it'll make it look nice and even. Thank you again for joining me at Good Knit Kisses. I hope this helped you today, and stay tuned for our next tutorial. Have a great day and happy knitting. Psst. For all of the videos on increases, click below and you will see descriptions for all of them. We have make one, lifted increase, KFB, knit front and back, and yarn over. All right, happy knitting.